Prove love, not right. Like there's
that you love somebody, not that you're right.
And let love be the higher thing.
Interesting.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. Why do you do this?
Why do this? Ultimately, my main reason is love of God. My secondary is like love of my neighbor. And so right now, do you know how many babies a year die of abortion? 1 million plus in this nation. And so right now.
I have a quick question though.
Sure.
I'm not Christian, so I could be wrong, but in Genesis, doesn't it say life starts at first breath?
No, it says the first life started when God spoke or breathed into Abraham, and not Abraham, Adam, sorry. But it doesn't say that life begins at first breath. You have verses like Psalm 139 where David says, you knit me together in my mother's womb. Jeremiah where it says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. You have Luke where you have Mary, who is the mother of the incarnate Jesus. She goes and talks to her cousin Elizabeth, who's pregnant with, who's called John the Baptist. And it says that John the Baptist leaps in the womb at the presence of the Lord.
Okay.
And so, and scientifically, we know that life begins at conception. That's just an incontrovertible fact. Now people have moved it and said, well, personhood doesn't begin until this point. They'll say consciousness. But the difficulty with that argument is that consciousness is a scale. It's not like an on-off switch. That's why a 1-year-old, their level of consciousness isn't the same as a 5-year-old's. And a 5-year-old's level of consciousness isn't the same as a 13, and so on and so forth.
What if like a woman had medical conditions where she would die if she had the child?
Oh, and that's a great question. So I think in situations like that, so like preeclampsia, which would be high blood pressure, gestational diabetes, that the safest thing to do is perform a cesarean section and do what you can to save both mother and child. But a third trimester abortion is dangerous, of course, for the child because you're killing the child in the process. And successful abortion, a child is killed. And it's dangerous for the woman. The way a third trimester abortion is done is that a chemical, usually digoxin, is inserted into the child to cause a fetal heart attack, and then the woman gives birth to that child that was just killed. And I'm saying that instead they should perform a cesarean section, which takes 30 minutes approximately in the US. And all situations in life there can be danger, but we live in a first world country like America, and I just believe that all life should be equally protected. So I don't think that the woman should, I don't think that someone should say, oh, forfeit your life, to hell with it. No, I think that's wrong. I just think that we should equally protect the woman's life and the life in the womb. I believe that all life is valuable. All life was created in the image of God. I think that your life is valuable. His life is valuable, my life is valuable, and that all life should be protected.
Have you ever met anybody that had an abortion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I see you around a lot.
Yeah, no, I've definitely met people. I've met people that had abortions and regretted it. But they've been healed. And so my other message is that there's women on this campus, there's 40,000 students that have likely had an abortion. Mm-hmm. And we'll let them know. My other sign is abortion is murder, but forgiveness for murder is found in Jesus Christ alone. People say, well, doesn't that bring guilt and shame? And an argument that I'll present to that is if I had a sign here that said, removing wisdom teeth is murder, people would just laugh at me. There'd be no guilt or shame brought.
Yeah.
There's guilt and shame already there. All that's doing is exposing what they're already carrying. And I want to let them know that they don't have to carry that weight of that guilt anymore because Jesus died for that sin on the cross. They can be totally forgiven.
I see what you're saying. I just don't think anybody's going out here getting abortions because for any reason. I think it's a hard process. Mm-hmm. I feel like most women, when they feel like they need an abortion, it's not like, oh, okay, it's okay, I'm gonna get an abortion. Mm-hmm. We know that could be a life, but
and I just want to speak to the truth. I think we all know intuitively that is a life. It's not that it could be a life, it is a life. I think people tell themselves oh, this is a potential life. You'll hear that terminology used a lot, but that's just a euphemism that we throw out.
So even if
that is life.
The first, say 5 weeks when it is just a bunch of cells, you think no?
Well, you and I are just a bunch of cells. I'm bigger than you, so I'm more cells than you, but I don't think that makes me more valuable than you. Do you see what I'm saying? Whenever you arbitrarily draw the line somewhere other than when life begins, it's danger. And the biggest atrocities that occurred in our history as humanity has been whenever we said this group of people is less than people. So in antebellum South, they said that blacks were less than people, therefore it's okay to enslave them. They were totally wrong. Horrible things happened as a result. In Nazi Germany, they said that Jews were less than people. Horrible things happened as a result. In our day and age, they say that the life in the womb is a less than person. And that's why, this sign, it's a graphic. It's a terrible thing. And I'm not showing this to rage bait. I'm not showing this to this. This is what it is.
No, I know. I'm just coming to ask because I'm not judging. I'm just wondering because
I appreciate it.
obviously have two different views on it, but I I'm just curious on why.
Yeah, I want to show people like this is what this is. This is what this is, because a lot of people they're told that the sayings, the slogans, it's just a clump of cells. Oh, it's just a zygote, a fetus. You hear these words thrown out because they want to minimize that this is a child. I mean, fetus itself is just Latin for offspring, small child.
Yeah.
People want to minimize what's going on because it's evil. I mean, 1 million plus babies a year die in abortion. It is the genocide of our day and age. It's the true genocide going on. And I just believe that all life should be equally protected, and I want all people to know Jesus. Now, you said you aren't religious. Do you believe in God?
Yeah, I am. I'm just not a Christian.
Okay, what do you believe?
I believe in a higher power.
Okay.
I believe that there is something there protecting us. I would say from what I've learned, I feel like resonate more with like Buddhism than I do with Christianity, but I don't want to say too much because I'm not like super
versed.
knowledgeable on everything.
So I didn't become a Christian when I was 20. I didn't grow up going to church. I was agnostic before, and I'm 30 now, just to give perspective.
Okay.
For me, when I look at Buddhism, there can be individual things that Buddha, I forget his name, Siddhartha, something like that.
I'm not even sure.
But there can be individual things that he says. It's like, oh, there's some wisdom in that. But then there's other things where it's like you have to reject the idea that there's good and evil. And it's like, no, there's definitely good and evil.
One thing I've heard that Christians say about Buddhism is that when you choose Buddhism and not Christianity, it's like it's all on you. You don't have someone there with you, like a higher power, like helping you out in a sense. I feel because like I don't know. One thing about Buddhism is like life is suffering, but it's like you're supposed to work your way around that and make yourself happy.
Well, no, actually, the ultimate way you escape from suffering, according to Buddhism, is you would detach from desire.
Yeah, sorry, you're right.
So you detach from desire, and if you don't do it in this life, then you'll reincarnate and do it in the next. And depending on how good your karma was, will depend on what you reincarnate as. So there's some similarities with Hinduism. But like I said, they reject there actually being an objective good and bad. It's like the yin yang, like that it's all balance and all this stuff. And I say, no, to hell with that, literally. I mean, I reject that. There's things that are wrong, that there isn't a balance. Like that to me, you can't balance, extreme examples, you can't balance rape and pedophilia and say, oh, well, there's good to balance it out. No, I would say that those things are objectively wrong. So in Christianity, it's that we've all done wrong. And maybe we haven't committed those atrocities, but we've all lied, stolen, lusted. We've done things that have separated us from God, have you heard of the butterfly effect before, where one little action you do can have, right? That like
There's
so.
like a ripple effect.
A ripple effect.
Yeah.
So even our smaller things that we view as smaller can be bigger in scale, like they have bigger effect. And God knows not only what we do in the situation that we're in, but he knows our heart and what we would do in other situations. What if we didn't live in America where we had food and shelter and water? God knows the things that we do, but God says, no matter what you've done, you can be forgiven because I've taken your sin upon myself on the cross. So every other religion, like you said, it's about what you do. It's about your actions. Whereas Christianity says that our actions, they've deserved death, but Jesus, he died that death in our place. Have you ever looked into Christianity?
I have. I mean, like, there's just sometimes, I don't know, it's just, there's certain things about it that I'm like a bit iffy on, but then there's other things that I'm like.
What are things you're iffy on?
I mean, I don't know, I feel like it's a very it's more so I would rather follow Jesus than follow Christianity, even though I know he is Christian, but I just feel like
well, Jesus was Jewish, technically. Christianity was formed, they started calling themselves Christians afterwards because he was Jesus Christ, which in the Greek is Christos, which is just the Greek way to say Mashiach in Hebrew, which is the Messiah. So Christians believe that Jesus was the Messiah prophesied about in the Old Testament, and he fulfills all these, born in Bethlehem, born of a virgin, that he would even be crucified, was prophesied about in the Old Testament. And so Jesus was the fulfillment of that. So he was the Mashiach, the Christos, that's where you get Christian from. So they started calling them Christians like, oh, these are the followers of Christ.
I guess it's more so like the stories, like Adam and Eve, and the apple, like that is like hard for me to like conceptualize, but.
I always encourage people, begin at the cross. Because if Jesus didn't die and resurrect, Christianity is pointless, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But if he did, if God himself did come to this earth and die on the cross for you, start there. That is the, pun intended, that's the crux of the matter. Like, did Jesus really die for you? And if he did, start from there and say, okay, well, Jesus, I believe you died for me. I don't understand all this other stuff yet, But also, when I became a Christian, I mean, I hadn't read the Bible. I'd gone to church a few times and different things like that. But there was a lot I had to learn. I knew there was Catholics and Protestants because you have to learn about that in school. And then I had heard about these Orthodox people on the East somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know much going into it. But I knew that I was a sinner, that God's wrath and judgment of my sin and his love for me met on the cross in the person of Jesus.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Ellie.
Ellie, Andrew.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming up and talking.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Have you ever read the Bible?
No. Is this the New or Old Testament?
That's one of the books in the New Testament.
Okay.
That's the Gospel of John. Do a chapter a day.
Because I was thinking if I did read the Bible, I'd rather start with the Old Testament, only because it's more like, it's not as touched, I guess you could say. I feel like they kind of rewrote. I've heard they rewrote a few things.
And I used to believe that, but actually, like the way that we get English translations today, I used to think, oh, it's copies of copies of copies, and from this language to this language to this language. That's a lie. I just thought that, and it sounded true, but it wasn't true. Actually, the way that we get English translations today is so like the ESV or different versions, is they go back to the Greek manuscripts that we have, because the New Testament was written in Greek, because that was the lingua franca of the day. That's what everyone spoke. And so it'd be like today, they'd probably write in English, because even if you are, like a lot of people know English because of America.
Yeah.
And so Greek was the language of that day, and that's what they wrote in Koine Greek, which was the common people's language. And we actually have thousands of manuscripts of the Greek. And then the first language it was translated to in Mass was Latin.
Okay.
And so they have Latin copies, again, thousands of copies that they go to. And the cool thing is you got a smartphone, you can look up what was the Greek word here. You can see exactly what was there, what are other ways it could have been translated. But you realize like, oh, this is what it says. For me, I realized that God is faithful to preserve his word, to guard and protect it so that I can get to him and find him in it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course, Ellie, right?
Yes.
Yes. Nice. Like Andrew.
Andrew, have a great day.
You too. God bless you, Ellie.
God bless.